I'm Brad Scheider. I'm Henderson County Judge Executive. I was appointed to that position in March after the untimely death of my predecessor, Judge Hugh McCormick. It's very humbling to be in that position. He was a good friend of mine. We miss him dearly, but the wheels of government roll on, and somebody had to step in and take that spot. And after careful consideration, I put my name forward, and Governor Bevin saw fit to appoint me. I've lived in Henderson County since 1988. I'm not a native. I chose to live in Henderson County, and I've grown to dearly love it. I married a local girl, and Kelly Blanford is her name, a maiden name, and comes from a large farming family in Henderson County. We have two children, Benjamin, a 19-year-old sophomore at Northern Kentucky University, and Nicholas, who's a 15-year-old sophomore in high school. I worked for 20 years in journalism before I joined the Henderson Chamber of Commerce in 2009 as its president. I was CEO of Kindle, which is the combined chamber and economic development agency in Henderson County that served actually a four-county region before I was appointed judge executive. So it was a thoughtful step to put my name in the ring and do this for our community. But I'm really felt the calling, and now as the election years, I'm ready to serve for another 2 years at least. Well, I want to be judge executive because this is a pretty crucial time in the history of Henderson County. There are some great things happening in our community, in our region, and if we make the right decisions at the county level in the next couple years, it could impact our community positively for the next several decades. I-69 is a huge component of everything we're thinking about as a community. There are other factors involved, and right at this moment, I think poor decision making at the wrong time would set us back just as many years. So knowing that when the position was open, I felt that my professional experience over the previous 30 years almost had positioned me to take this next step for my community, my chosen community, the town that I chose to live in, the county I chose to live in. So it was important to me as somebody who was heavily involved in the community, who had seen political decision-making up close, not been a part of it, but seen it up close. When this opportunity came to actually, take the next step, really make the commitment to help my friends and neighbors, family, all the people who call Henderson County home by doing this, stepping in to be the interim judge executive and then running for office. I think I'm uniquely qualified for the position considering what I've done the previous 30 years, both as a community journalist, and as you well know, that puts you in the middle of everything going on in any county, any town, seeing a wide variety of the people who make up a community and what their dreams and aspirations are. And then working for the Chamber of Commerce, where you become intimately involved in what really drives any community, and that's its economy, and especially its small businesses. Knowing their needs, their fears, their desires, I think really informs anybody who wants to help a community thrive and grow. And I was absolutely in the front row of that experience as Chamber of Commerce president. And then being able to take over economic development position where it's my job to go out and recruit industry and sell our community to the wider world really helped me hone in on the power of county government to impact that, how important it is it's a strong partner for economic development, and how everything else we do in county government, everything else that happens in a community starts with the economy. Do people have jobs? Do they have money in their pockets? Can they buy homes? Can they buy groceries? Can they help fund a tax base that provides the services that county government's responsible for? It all grows from that. So to have somebody like myself who's intimately knowledgeable about those factors, economic factors, I think is really important for any county, and that's why I think I'm uniquely qualified for the position. The first is to get the county back on firm financial footing. We had a relatively significant financial crisis in our county in the last year, 2 years, that we're still climbing out of, and I think the judge executive, whoever that is, has to focus on getting the county back on firm financial footing, because everything the county does flows out of its budget. Its ability to have the resources to do both its core services, provide its core services, and anything extra that comes along, economic development opportunities, quality of life projects, it all stems from our ability to have the resources And that gets back to minding the money wisely. So I think that helping the county get back on firm financial footing is job number one. I think job number two is creating more jobs. I think it relates to the first one. I think having a viable, vibrant economy in our county is crucial for any community. And as you know, in some parts of western Kentucky, communities are shrinking. Towns are losing population as people search out jobs. So helping the community gain more jobs, gain more industry, gain more small businesses is something I think county government should be heavily involved in. And I think my experience helps that. And it doesn't get just back to supporting Kindle, our regional economic development organization, which we should, absolutely, but also workforce development, infrastructure, all those things that impact businesses, all those things that help. And you can go on and on. And keeping taxes low, that's a big thing. Minding the money wisely helps keep taxes low. And a low tax environment encourages more businesses. So all those things are very important to me. And we're going to work on enhancing all those services, all those abilities if I'm judge executive. And the third one relates to the second one, but it's a little bit more of a long-term goal. And I know across western Kentucky this is important, but access to high-speed broadband internet. And I know here at surfky.com they care deeply about broadband internet, and I think that's become expected infrastructure across our country, both not just for businesses, but for families who use it for educational purposes and any number of things. And if you don't have access to high-speed broadband at home, you're really behind the curve now, deeply behind the curve. And in rural communities, it's the toughest assignment because many of the access points are controlled by private companies who need to make money to continue to provide broadband internet. And if they can't get enough mass in any particular part of a county to have enough revenue, they tend not to go there. So we have to work out how we can be partners with providers like AT&T and Verizon and whoever else can help us solve this issue and get broadband internet access available in a wide number of our communities in Henderson County, if not the entire county. So it's going to take a while, but we've tackled larger projects than that and been successful. So I'm really going to work on that however I can. And we've already begun to meet with private providers, work with GRAD, the Green River Area Development District, to see what they can do. So broadband internet is something I have in the back of my mind all the time. And hopefully, before I step out of the office, every Henderson Countyan will be able to play Netflix on their computers without having to worry about it. So there's really no thing more important than having a balanced budget and living within your means, especially in Henderson County where in the past the government has had to rely on things like coal severance and prior year carryover, prior year surplus to balance budgets in ongoing years, and that's been a practice that partially eventually led to some severe financial issues with our county government. So learning to live within our means is the next order of business. Coal severance will probably never be what it once was for western Kentucky. We have to learn a different model of doing business. And that means only living within the revenue we can expect from normal sources during the course of a year, like any business. So we're going to learn to do that. Balancing the budget's a legal requirement as well as a moral requirement. And where volunteer fire department funding comes into that's interesting because volunteer fire departments are not part of county government. I know some people think that, but they're actually private nonprofits who we assist because public safety is important to the county. But they are separate entities, just like a lot of the other nonprofits the county helps with funding. But I know that volunteer fire departments have hit on harder times. There are more requirements of them that cost money. They're seeking ways to gain funds, and there are a couple different ways I think we can help that don't necessarily impact the county's budget in any significant way. One is called dues on tax bills. Each of the volunteer fire departments sends out requests of county residents to contribute donations to help fund the volunteer fire department's operations. They refer to them as dues, but they're voluntary. You don't have to pay them. And currently only 25% of the people in our county actually make those contributions. Even though they're getting the services of the volunteer fire departments, it's not good enough. We need to increase that amount. We need to increase awareness, education among the folks who live in the county about the services the volunteer fire departments provide. And if we put those dues requests, those contribution requests, on the county tax bills, when people go to pay their county tax bill, if they see that little dues figure, which is, I don't know, nominal fee, $50, $40, they're much more apt to pay it. Even though it's still voluntary, they won't have to pay it like they will have to pay their property tax bill. They can opt out of that volunteer fire department contribution. But having it there in front of them when they're writing a check that they know they have to write makes it much more likely they'll add that little bit for volunteer fire departments. The county will collect it and then disperse it back out to the volunteer fire departments based on the address of the person who wrote the check. So people who live near Niagara or Zion or Corydon or Smith Mills, as they pay their property tax check, their volunteer fire department will get those funds if the folks make the contribution. Now, that means that all that money is independent of the county budget. It's not a part of the county budget. And estimates have shown that if we get that ratio of people who actually make the contribution up to 70 or 80%, that provides more than enough revenue for the volunteer fire departments to operate. And if people have issues with the volunteer fire departments, they don't have to come to the county. They can go to the boards of the volunteer fire departments to mitigate issues or have discussions. It puts all the control with the volunteer fire departments, and according to their calculations, provides them all the cash they need to do what they do. If that is not acceptable, and I know some people will think of the dues on tax bills as being just another tax, so it may not pass. It's a conversation I'm willing to have in fiscal court. I'm willing to bring the volunteer fire department chiefs to fiscal court and let's have the debate. And if it fails, we have another option. Our jailer, Ron Harrington, just very generously offered to give $100,000 of his unrestricted surplus funds, to the volunteer fire departments in our county to help, which was a very nice gesture. I think we have enough funds, unrestricted surplus in the jail year to year because Jailer Harrington does a very good job, extremely good job. We could do that every year. We could turn a negative, which is funds derived from people's incarceration, and turn it into a positive by using it to help public safety in the county. So that would be outside of the normal budget because it's surplus funds from the jail. Could be a great solution if dues on tax bills doesn't work. I think we got a couple roads we can go down to make sure the volunteer fire departments have all the funds they need. The occupational tax, at the time it was passed, was unfortunately a necessary step because of decisions made previous 2 years. The county found itself in a bad way, and they had to make a drastic decision. And instituting the occupational tax was something they had to do. As for what the funds will be used for now and in the future, it's to balance the budget, to help fill the holes that were created with, again, some decisions that were made and the shrinking of some revenue sources, for instance, coal severance, gas tax revenue for our road department. Every county across Kentucky is experiencing those things, especially if they're in the coal field. So Henderson County had to take those tough steps. Now, in the future, we're going to use it not for anything specific. It was just to help us keep the general fund in good shape. If there comes an opportunity where we see that we have more than enough revenue to do what we need to do, there is an opportunity to shave those back. There's a second component to the occupational tax called the net profits tax, which won't kick in until next fiscal year, which levies a 1% tax against locally derived income for companies. And that's not popular either. No taxes are popular that I know of. And Lord knows I pay my share. But people expect certain services from the county, and the county did what it had to keep being able to provide those services. There won't be certain earmarks for occupational tax revenue or net profits tax revenue, but there may be opportunities in the future to cut those back a little bit, to pull them back. If we do a good enough job minding the money and being efficient and making sure that we have the right amount of expenses versus revenue, nothing luxurious, then we might have that chance. But I do know the cost of everything is going up, especially health care for our county employees, workers' compensation, other benefits, pension costs, all those things are going up. If you own a business, you understand that. The county in that way is no different than any other company that has to look at revenue versus expense and try to do the best it can to not only meet its requirements, but also put a little money back for the future. One of the challenges we've had is that reserves were dipped into significantly over the last 3-4 years. We went from a little over $5.5 million in a reserve fund, a rainy day fund, down to $1.4 million today. That's a lot of money in a short amount of time. We have to build that back up. We have less than 8% in reserve of our total budget. No county in the state would tell you that that's a correct amount. You need to have at least 25 to 30% in the bank to handle emergencies, to be able to participate in economic development opportunities. If a big plant, a big opportunity came along and we needed to have a little bit of money to sweeten the deal, we aren't in a position to do that right now. So not only do we need to take care of our day-to-day operations, but we need to think about putting more money back in our rainy day fund to get it to a healthy level to make certain that no matter what happens in Henderson County, we have the money to meet the demand. When I arrived as the newly appointed judge executive, one of the things I noticed right away that our communications were not where they needed to be. So not only did we create a Facebook page recently, we also spent a lot of time updating the information available on our website. And we're going to look to continue to improve where we can, because I think open communication, especially online communication, is vitally important. It's how people find out about what's going on these days. It is absolutely vitally important. We make our fiscal court meetings available online through video. Both minutes and agendas are available online now. We're using our Facebook page to keep people appraised of what's going on with the county, what events are happening in the county, what newsworthy items are we interested in or part of county government. I look to enhance all those as we go and get a lot of feedback from the public on what they like, what they don't like, what they like to see, and try to accommodate that, because I want to be as transparent as possible. I want our website to be an information source, not merely a place to look up phone numbers and get directions, although those are important too. So doing everything we can to have a really good county government website is important to me. And the day-to-day social media things that we can assist people with are important too. So our communications are getting better, and hopefully, as a former journalist, I take enough pride in that to make sure that we're among the very best in the state. So we're going to work on that. To me, there's two components to education. It's not just K through 12 education, but it's post-secondary and workforce training. To me, that's all education. And having a world-class education opportunities in Henderson County is going to be a key to our future economic viability. Having a strong workforce really helps steer a county towards prosperity. If companies know that they get quality graduates from high school, it's a place where college graduates want to come back and work, and it's a place where skilled workers are available, you can get companies to come invest in your community. So we can be a cheerleader, number one, for our local public school system and everything they do, and all the schools in the county. And we can participate in ways they want us to, and where opportunities present themselves to us. Anything we can do to promote our schools, encourage our schools, partner with our schools, we want to do. But we also want to make sure that we're heavily invested in workforce training. And when I say heavily, I mean through time and effort and participation, not always money, because county can be constricted on the ways it can contribute to workforce training, but we can absolutely help in some ways, partner. And working closely with our workforce investment board through GRAD, and anything our community college does to help with workforce training is important. The county needs to be a player in that. We shouldn't just sit on the sidelines and hope that they do their job well. We need to figure out how we can help them do their job well, and act as a liaison between the private sector and our schools, our workforce training facilities, all of those programs. Work with Kindle, which has a strong workforce development component, to see how we can help them. We have to think about it. We have to be mindful of it and participate. Again, we can't just sit on the sidelines. So it's very important to me that we get that right over the next however many years, because it will be a key to maintaining our prosperity. The Gavilan issue is interesting. It's inside the city, so it's not necessarily a county issue yet. But through my work at Kindle, we were significantly involved or heavily involved in this issue. And it's tough because we want to weigh the needs of a very long-standing business, that Gavilan elevator, versus their neighbors who have issues with the way Gavilan has done its business in the past there at that location. I know they're working closely together now, both the neighborhood and Gavilan, to try to alleviate this issue. We hope it works out. I think Gavilan's location right there on the riverfront is advantageous to a lot of farmers, and the needs of our farming community are very important. It is a huge portion of our economy in Henderson County, agriculture. And we need to make sure that Gavilan stays in Henderson County, whether it's at that location or another location if they decide that the best thing to do is to relocate. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that every business should be a good neighbor, every business. And hopefully Gavilan will do whatever it takes to make sure that they're considered to be a good neighbor. Probably more so now than at any time in Henderson County's recent history, the judge executive's race is really a key decision for people in our community. And I think people need to decide whether they want to keep doing what we've always done in the past and trust the same kind of processes, the same kind of folks who helped us apparently get into a very hard financial situation last year, if they want to do that all over again, or if they want to break from that rut, get out of that rut and do something new and different. That's where we stand right now. And I am the person, I think, that can deliver new thinking, a different way of going about business, out-of-the-box considerations, a fresh perspective. That's what I bring to the table, I believe. I'm going to run, obviously, as hard as I can to November 8th. I appreciate the vote of the people of Henderson County. And if I win, I'm going to run again in 2018 to continue to do the things that I think will help the community that adopted me, helped me raise my family. I want to return that favor in the very best way I know how, to make sure that when my kids have kids, that I don't have to get on a plane to go visit my grandchildren, that they'll have the option of living in our community and having jobs and having a life and having a future there. That's what I want to happen. That's why I'm running now and in the future, and that's why I'm so excited about being Henderson County Judge Executive.